लिखने का भी होता है ना,
सिर्फ वो बाद में आता है ऑप्शन।
आवाज सुनाई नहीं पड़ रहा।
अनम्यूट है, कुछ बोल नहीं रही मैम।
आवाज नहीं
अभी आएगा सर, जब स्पीकिंग स्टार्ट होगी तब।
इसको क्या लगा रखे हैं?
चालू हो रहा है सर वो। अभी मैम किसी से फोन पे कन्वर्सेशन कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद में जब स्टार्ट होगी ना मीटिंग। नहीं तो आप कुछ बोल रहे हो, आप बोल सकते हो इसमें।
मैं अभी नहीं बोल सकता ना, हम खुद ही बोलेंगे बोलने के लिए। सर का भी लेक्चर, क्वेश्चन आंसर बोलना पड़ेगा।
Sir, Pardesi ji, we are here. We can start. Are you ready? Then we can start. Can you hear us, sir?
We are ready.
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Madam, we are ready.
Okay, okay. Okay, let's start.
अटेंडेंस देना पड़ता है ना, लिखना
I would
पड़ता है।
like to make one announcement. It's
यहाँ पे
nice if the speaker is
Joyita Lidi, just a minute. Joyita Lidi, please. I'm going to request everyone else to please mute their microphone when someone else is speaking. Okay? Thank you very much.
Good morning and good afternoon to everybody here. Today we are going to celebrate the World Philosophy Day organized by the Department of Philosophy under the aegis of IQAC of Vijay Krishna Girls College, Howrah. Through this webinar, we have with us an array of dignitaries here, along with the members of the Department of Philosophy of the college. Now, at the very beginning, I would request Dr. Jitendranath Das with his melodious chanting of Vedic mantra to mark the auspicious beginning of the celebration of World Philosophy Day. Jitendra, please.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanam Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Appayantu Mamangani Baka Prana Chakshu Shatramata Balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuriyad mama brahmo nirakarot anirakaranam astu tadatmani upanishadsu te maishantu om shanti shanti shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasisyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Jitendra, for such a nice chanting. Now, a few lines into the webinar titled Some Global Problems and Their Solutions from Indian Philosophical Perspectives. As we know, philosophy can provide solutions to certain problems which have hitherto remained unsolved. Therefore, we can very correctly derive that even global problems will not remain unsolved when considered from the philosopher's point of view. Now, may I introduce our principal, Dr. Ruma Bhattacharya, whose inspiration goes a long way to make every event successful. I invite her to deliver the welcome address and she will also chair the session. Please, madam.
Good morning, everyone. and good afternoon too. This is indeed a very special day for Vijay Krishna Girls College, Howrah. Today's webinar celebrating the World Philosophy Day is being inaugurated by Honorable High Commissioner of India to New Zealand, Sri Muktesh K. Pardesi. Sir, we are all honored by your gracious presence today. I extend my warm welcome to Professor J.L. Shaw, with whom our college has a long cherished association. I also welcome all participants from various institutes and universities. I feel very privileged today to introduce the Honorable High Commissioner to all the participants today. This is indeed a pleasure for me, sir. I hope I have done justice to your very bright and star-like career. Muktesh K. Pardesi joined his assignment as the High Commissioner of India to New Zealand on 29 July 2019. A career diplomat, he joined Indian Foreign Service in 1991. He was the Ambassador of India to Mexico from April 2016 to June 2019. He concurrently also served as High Commissioner to Belize. During his tenure, India-Mexico privileged partnership saw huge advancement in bilateral trade especially. India participated as the guest of honor country at the 46th Cervantino International Festival in 2018 and the 33rd International Book Fair at Guadalajara in 2019. He was named Ambassador of the Year 2018 for his contributions by Mexican diplomatic journal El Mundo International. At headquarters, Sri Pardesi was Joint Secretary of Passport Seva Project and Chief Passport Officer of India during the period 2010 to 2016. His leadership role in the transformation of passport services in India has been widely acclaimed. Sir, I must say here that I have benefited during this period. I was renewing my passport and I saw a sea change in the entire procedure of passport procedure. As the mission leader of Passport Seva Project, he received numerous awards, including the prestigious National Award on E-Governance Gold 2014-15 and Web Ratna Platinum Award 2014. During 2010 to 16, he also served on the board of directors of the Security Printing and Minting Corporation of India Limited. In a diplomatic career spanning over 28 years, Ambassador Pardesi has earlier served as Minister Deputy Head of Mission at the Embassy of India in Jakarta and Counselor at the Permanent Mission of India to the Conference on Disarmament in Geneva. In 2001 to 4, he was Deputy Secretary of Southeast Asia and Pacific in the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi. And he worked in India missions in Mexico City, Bogota, and also Kathmandu. He was educated at the University of Delhi, where he obtained Bachelor and Master of Arts from Hindu College and Delhi School of Economics, respectively, with gold medal, before entering the diplomatic service in 1991. He also holds a diploma in Spanish from the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Once again, sir, we are extremely honored, and I take this opportunity to request you to please inaugurate the webinar and deliver your inaugural speech. And once again, I welcome everyone who have joined to make this World Philosophy Day celebration by Vijay Krishna Girls College, Howrah successful. Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are, sir. Yes, you are.
Uh, Greetings from New Zealand and a very good morning. Here it's late afternoon. I'm so happy to join the international webinar on some global problems and their solutions from Indian philosophical perspectives, delivered by eminent New Zealand-based philosopher Dr. J.L. Shaw to celebrate the World Philosophy Day. I would like to congratulate Dr. Ruma Bhattacharya, the principal, and all faculty members of the philosophy department of Vijay Krishna Girls College, Havara, on taking this laudable initiative. Many thanks for your kind invitation and generous introduction uh, made just now. The discipline of philosophy begins with a reflection. And as a diplomat, I must reflect as to how do I relate to World Philosophy Day. As we know, international diplomacy is about maintaining peace and security and achieving human dignity and equality on a healthy planet. Inspired by these goals, in 2005, the UNESCO proclaimed that World Philosophy Day would be celebrated every year on the third Thursday of November. In establishing World Philosophy Day, UNESCO strives to promote an international culture of philosophical debate that respects human dignity and diversity. The day is expected to encourage academic exchange and highlight the contribution of philosophical knowledge in addressing global issues. For diplomacy, philosophy provides the conceptual basis of principles and values on which world peace depends. And these concepts are like democracy, human rights, justice, and equality. The point I'm making is the philosophy is provides the foundational framework of the concepts and ideas with which we deal with in diplomatic world on day-to-day basis, and that's my connection with the World Philosophy Day. Philosophy is an inspiring discipline as well as an everyday practice that can stimulate intercultural dialogue and helps to build a more tolerant, more respectful society. It thus helps to understand and respond to major contemporary challenges by creating the intellectual conditions for social and political changes. The 2020 edition, which was earmarked to be held on 19 November 2020, wished to reflect on the meaning of the current pandemic. So the current pandemic was the focus of the 19th November World Philosophy Day, underlining the need, and more than ever before, to resort to philosophical reflection in order to face the multiple crises that we are going through. I'm so happy that today's distinguished speaker is none other than Dr. J.L. Shaw, a most reputed teacher, scholar, gentleman, and a very close friend. I would like to felicitate him on turning 80 only last week and wish him, on behalf of all of us who are participating in today's discussion, all happiness and good health in the years to come. Dr. Shaw has been a teacher for 51 long years. including 42 years at the Victoria University in Wellington. What I find him whenever I get an opportunity to interact with him, though he had just turned 80, he has uh, uh, plenty of energy, and his commitment to the cause of the discipline of philosophy is without any parallel. Every time that I interact with him, he has his comes up with new ideas, and the best thing is he would like to contribute to institutions in India. And at the age of 80, he keeps in touch with academic institutions. Only a few months back, there was another platform provided by one of the colleges in Delhi University, uh, where he spoke on comparative philosophy. And today, he has chosen to speak on some global problems and their solutions from Indian philosophical perspective. So we look forward to listening to him and getting the pearls of wisdom from an eminent philosopher like him. With these words, I am very happy to be participating in today's deliberation, and I wish the World Philosophy Day celebrated by Vijay Krishna Girls College all success today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now it is time for the IQAC coordinator of the college to address the webinar. It is evident that our IQAC coordinator is always very helpful and guides us properly to make all events successful. So I invite our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Shweta Guho, to address the webinar. Shweta Guho.
Thank you, Chaitali. On behalf of IQAC Vijay Krishna Girls College, Howrah, a warm welcome to distinguished dignitaries, participants, and students to today's international webinar on some global problems and their solutions from Indian philosophical perspective. Like every year, Department of Philosophy this year too has organized this program to celebrate World Philosophy Day. We are privileged to have with us His Excellency Nitish Kumar Pardeshi, High Commissioner of India, New Zealand, and eminent scholar Professor Jail Shaw, Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Indian philosophy has a very rich heritage, and it occupies a unique place in the realm of philosophy of world. It teaches us to create peace in human mind and enhances our ability to solve problems, increasing our persuasive power. Our aim is to make our students aware of the importance of Indian philosophy and its relevance to today's modern world. Now, I would like to request Dr. Kalyani Sarkar, joint convener of this webinar, to say few words about the objective of today's webinar. Over to Dr. Kalyani Sarkar. Kalyani, unmute yourself, Kalyani.
Okay, can you hear me all?
Yes.
Thank you, Shweta, for introducing me in this platform. This is really a very nice opportunity that we have with us. With so many stars we have, and especially the High Commissioner, His Excellency, is with us, and the learned Professor Dr. Jail Shaw is delivering his erudite lecture today also. But before going to his lecture, I think we should have discussed the points, how it is relevant, his topic, how it is relevant to this present day. Now, today, the world in general and our country in particular is facing a social turmoil that affects the very fabric of our prevalent social order. And in this pandemic era, everything has come to a standstill. Frustration, anxiety has spread all over the world. In this painful situation, we need to reevaluate our path in life. Right thinking can offer solace in these dark times. We believe philosophical discussion, analysis, and thought is appropriate tool to withstand difficult times and can enable man to bring new life in his life. I think Professor Shaw will deliver his lecture, and before that, our colleague Joitali Chaudhuri, she will introduce him. And I think he's a very erudite professor and widely acclaimed philosopher. I think we'll all eager to hear his lecture from his mouth, and it is very relevant to this present society. So I don't want to tell much more because all of us are eagerly waiting. So I am giving microphone to Choitali Chaudhuri to introduce her. Thank you all.
Now,
Choitali?
it is time for us to introduce our eminent speaker, Professor Dr. J.L. Shaw from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Dr. Jaishankar Lal Shaw is from Victoria University of Wellington. He is a resident of New Zealand. He has done his PhD from Rice University. His teaching career spans 51 years, including 42 years at Victoria University, 3 years at the University of Hawaii, 1 year at Alabama University, and 5 years at Jadavpur University, Calcutta. The courses taught by him includes a range of courses on Western philosophy and comparative philosophy. He has also taught courses on Maori philosophy, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Indian philosophy. Now coming to his profile. Dr. Shaw's research in the field of Indian and comparative philosophy is considered to be pioneering. He is the founder of several societies in different countries for the promotion of comparative philosophy, including the Society for Philosophy and Culture, a society dedicated to cross-cultural and cross-disciplinary debates and discussions. 2 international conferences have been organized on Dr. Shaw's philosophy, held in Calcutta in 2001 and 2008 in India. New Zealand's newspaper articles have described Dr. Shaw as doing God's work and Wellington's hidden living treasure. This is by Wellingtonian. A versatile scholar of rare abilities from Auckland and an analytical philosopher of outstanding competence. This is by Indian Newslink, Auckland. His Fest scripts. Dr. Shaw is a recipient of 2 Fest scripts. He is the first New Zealand-based philosopher to be honored with the Fest script for his book Contemporary Philosophy and J.L. Shaw in 2006, shared by Dominion Post. He is also one of only 2 New Zealand-based scholars honored with Fest script for his book Comparative Philosophy and J.L. Shaw in 2015, published by Springer. An important announcement by Springer. As a Fest script, this book celebrates and honors the scholarly achievements of Professor Jaishankar Lal Shaw, one of the most eminent and internationally acclaimed comparative philosophers of our times. Several publications are there to his credit. He has written 14 books. His current projects include editing some 20 articles on mind, body, and self for publication. He is preparing articles on realism, Indian and Western, Russell and Nair on definite descriptions. Professor Anand Vaidya, Director of Comparative Philosophy, San Jose University, California, has been working with Dr. Shaw on comparative philosophy. His projects also include the relevance of Indian philosophy to contemporary Western philosophy. Now, Dr. Shaw
চৈতালি দি আপনি মিউট হয়ে গেছেন, আপনি আনমিউট করুন।
Okay. Is the introduction of Dr. Shaw have been audible? One more thing I would like to bring to your kind attention, Dr. Shaw,
I can,
that at the end of your speech, there will be the interactive session. We will be collecting the questions from the chat box and then present them to you. Over to our eminent speaker, Dr. Shaw, for his valuable speech.
Sir, Professor Shaw? Professor Shaw, are you there?
Sir, you please unmute yourself, sir.
Please unmute yourself, sir. Yes.
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Can
yes.
you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can hear you. Yes.
So I have done it. Now,
Sir,
it is a great
Sir, one request. Can you please lift your we can only see half of you. So can you please either lift your camera or yeah. Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now it is okay?
Yes, it's okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Now I can see only Choitali. How is it? Is it I can see others as well, or there is no need for me?
Yes, sir, I am here,
see
Umesh.
myself?
Yes, sir, I am here, Umesh.
Now how can I
Umesh.
see?
We are all
Yes,
over here,
how
Dr.
can I
Shaw.
see?
देखना चाह रहे हैं वो.
Yes.
Sir.
Now how can I see how to see myself speaking?
No. You can see yourself, but you'll be seeing anyone who is speaking or moving. So that one will come on your screen, whoever is moving or talking.
Now, how can I see myself on the screen?
Yes, sir, I am here, Umesh Prasad Singh.
No, but
he wants
I
to
would
see
like
himself.
to see.
He wants to see himself. Yes, you keep on talking and your screen will come up with your picture.
Yes, now I can.
Yes, Professor
you
Shaw,
can
I am
see
here.
now.
Yes.
Jashankar ji, namaste.
So nice of you. I am honored by your presence. Now, first of all, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to the Vijay Krishna College for organizing this type of seminar. So, Honorable Chairperson, His Excellency, Mr. Muktesh Kumar Pardeshi, the Indian High Commissioner for New Zealand, the Principal of Vijay Krishna Girls College, coordinators Kalyani Sarkar, Jhuma Pal, as well as Choitali Chaudhary, Shamali Banerjee, Sweta Guho, Orpita Basu, Mau Bhattacharya, volunteers, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, distinguished guests, such as the head of the Ramakrishna Mission, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to you for organizing the seminar on some global problems and their solutions from Indian philosophical perspectives. It is a unique event, not only in India, but also in the world, as this type of seminar has never been held in the past. I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart all of you, including organizers, volunteers, participants, as well as the audience for their support and encouragement. I get great encouragement from you. As you are aware, the aim is to have a dialogue between the diverse traditions of Europe, Asia, North and South, East and West, so that each tradition derives some inspiration from the other, and they, far from being incompatible, supplement each other. Hence, it is an extremely rewarding forum and falsifies the claim that East is East, West is West, and never the twain shall meet, R. Kipling. So we are trying to falsify this claim of Kipling. Now, in my introduction, I have pointed out 4 themes. One of them is related to United Nations Charter. Another one is related to some global problems, current problems, including global pandemic. Then I will address from the perspective of Indian philosophy, as well as from the perspective of Indian concept of dharma, because Indian concept of philosophy and dharma, both the concepts have not been addressed properly to my knowledge. Moreover, I will emphasize in my talk Advaita Vedanta, especially the practical Vedanta of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, I think, is the soul of the world. If you follow his practical Vedanta, then all the global problems can be solved. Moreover, I will try to extend the interpretation of Advaita Vedanta so that we can solve the current problems as well. Advaita Vedanta is called Nirvirodhavada, that has no opposition. It includes everybody. So the paper is divided into 4 sections. The first section of the paper mentions the Charter of the United Nations. The shortcoming of the Charter is that it does not refer to other sentient beings or nature at large. It refers to only human beings. So that is the point of difference. Indian philosophers from its Vedic period have included not only human beings, but also all sentient beings and nature at large. I'll point out. Moreover, it is based on nationhood. There are small nations, big nations, powerful nations, which prevents us to share the global resources such as food, water, minerals, and so on. Because some big nations do not want to share their resources. Some 15 global issues have been mentioned in this paper. The Indian concept of philosophy is much broader than the Western counterpart, as it aims to alleviate the suffering of living beings amongst many other things. It includes living beings, not only human beings, but also other sentient beings. The Indian concept of dharma cannot be expressed by the Western concept of religion or ethics, as it does not presuppose the conflict between reason and faith or science and religion. Western concept of religion presupposes the conflict between reason and faith. Religion is being accepted on the ground of faith, not on the ground of reason. But Indian concept of religion, dharma, is purely rational. It does not include any element of dogmatic faith. No dogma. Moreover, there is no conflict between science and religion, as dharma is as scientific as scientific thesis or scientific laws. Moreover, the dharmic activities lead to the realization of spiritual values. I will point out what does it mean, realization of spiritual values. Just I would like to mention and convey my regards to one of the Swamijis who has got several branches in several countries. He requested me once, nearly 15 or 20 years ago, to give a talk on morality and spirituality, how morality leads to spirituality. And with his blessings, I wrote a few lines, and I will share those lines with you today. The third section of the paper deals with the oneness of the Advaita philosophy as propounded by Swami Vivekananda to resolve the conflict between religions or diverse cultures of the world or views about reality, including diverse views about philosophy or ultimate reality. The practical Vedanta of Swamiji aims to foster fellow feeling and love for all beings. The love is not confined to human beings, love for all beings. And in that context, I will compare a letter of Einstein written to his daughter long time ago, but it was not available to public. Somehow I got some time ago when it was available to public. And I'll quote some of the passages of Einstein on love. The practical Vedanta of Swamiji aims to foster fellow feeling and love for all beings. It also aims to remove all types of superstition or discrimination. In Indian philosophy, there is no discrimination. And if you go back to the Vedas, as well as some 4 great sayings of the Vedantins mentioned in the 4 Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattamasi, and so on, you will never find any discrimination. Moreover, in the Mahabharata, as well as in the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of Mahabharata, you will never come across any discrimination. Same thing with Yoga Vasishta, there is no discrimination. So, I will point out that Swami Vivekananda's philosophy is free from any discrimination based on color, creed, caste, or country of origin. The 4th section of this paper deals with the application of oneness at global level. I noticed that oneness of Swami Vivekananda or the Advaita philosophy should be applicable to the global level, so that the gap between the rich and the poor is bridged. So long as there is a gap between them, between the rich and the poor, it is difficult to bridge. It is difficult to practice love and difficult to share resources and difficult to enlighten people with knowledge. This would make the world armament free, war free, terrorism free, global pandemic free, thereby pave the way for global peace and harmony. So, first I will mention a few lines from the Charter of the United Nations. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations at large and small, and to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. I will point out whether human beings are free, because half of the world, or more than half of the world, are governed by totalitarian regimes, authoritarian regimes. You will not come across democracy in many countries. Secondly, to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbors. The entire world is riddled with conflict. There is no global war, world war, but we do have many wars going on in different countries. And human rights are not practiced in many countries. So, to unite our strength to maintain international peace and security, to ensure by the acceptance of principles and institution of methods that armed forces shall not be used to save the common interest, to employ international machinery for the promotion of the economic and social advancement of all peoples. It is a questionable thing how far we have made the progress in terms of economic and social advancement in 75 years. Have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. Accordingly, our respective governments, through representative assembled in the city of San Francisco, who have exhibited their full powers found to be in good and due form, have agreed to the present Charter of the United Nations and do hereby establish an international organization to be known as United Nations. Now, I'm claiming two things. One is that it is to be noted that the Charter does not refer to other sentient beings or the nature at large. But in the context of Indian philosophy, we have mentioned other sentient beings and nature at large. I will point out in the context of Indian concept of dharma. And before mentioning that one, I would like to say that in Western religion, it is said that God created human beings after his image, but not other animals. And I would like to mention two passages from Swami Vivekananda in this context, Vedanta. He said, the Vedanta entirely denies such ideas as that animals are separate from human beings and that they are made and created by God to be used for our food. Volume 2, 297 page. Another quote from Swamiji, a God who is partial to his children called human beings and cruel to his children called brute beasts is worse than a demon. Who can say that? Truth. Swamiji. Great courage. Great. Greater than the great, I should say, in this world. Nobody has said type of thing. I would rather die 100 times than worship such a God. But the gods and goddesses and philosophy, they have respect for all living beings. Not only so, our dharma has respect for trees with fruits and flowers. Great. So now the problem is this. I have listed here some problems, global issues. One, sustainable development and climate change. We are facing this problem. Entire climate change. Then clean water. Half of the people of the world do not get or do not have access to clean water. Population and resources. How to share up resources and the population. Democratization. At the moment, as I mentioned, only a few countries have democracy. And you know, the countries which are ruled by authoritarian regimes, dictatorship. Not more than half will come under democratic rules. And moreover, we need democracy in the real sense. Then global foresight and decision making. Who makes the decision? We require foresight also. Then global convergence of ITs. Now, internet is very important, so we must share the resources globally. Then the gap between the rich and the poor. We have to bridge the gap, otherwise nothing will work. Then health issues, including the spread of global pandemic, COVID-19, and this also due to negligence of WHO, which has affected everybody. WHO, I should say. I read also in some newspapers that COVID could have been restricted. Border restrictions and masking should have been introduced from the beginning of the pandemic or at its early stage. But I should say that they have not been introduced. So restrictions have to be introduced to restrict global pandemic. And the United Nations should have done something about it, or WHO. Second point, that because of pandemic, I read also somewhere that rich have become richer and poor have become poorer. So the gap has been widened. How rich have become richer? This is due to the fact that prices, including share prices, fall drastically, but the rich people got the opportunity to invest and became billionaires overnight. I read in papers. But poor people who sold their resources, stocks, became poorer. So global pandemic has widened the gap. Now, proper education. And I got a separate paper on Swami Vivekananda on education. I have compared his view with that of Bertrand Russell. If time permits, I will focus on it also. Then peace and conflict, status of women. In many countries, women do not have any voice. This is a fact of life. So the gap between women and men is to be bridged. In our culture, women are respected so highly. If you look up Ramayana, Mahabharata, all the text, it is said, all of you know, Janani Janma Bhumischa Sargadapi Gariyashi. Janani. Transnational organized crimes. There are many crimes: drug, cyber attack, money laundering. They are transnational. And we get emails from banks not to disclose your record to others, and we get all these emails. Transnational crimes, drug, and many other things. Then energy resources. How much energy we got, electricity and so on. Same thing, science and technology. In some parts of the world, science, all the modern amenities of life have not been transmitted. Some parts of the world have not seen all the comforts of life, all the modern technologies. And then we require global ethics. So I have listed here nearly 15 points. Since global changes are transnational in character, they cannot be addressed by any government or institution alone. They require collaborative action amongst governments, international organizations, corporations, universities, and NGOs. Hence, we have to address the following questions. How can sustainable development be achieved for all while addressing global climate change? I will point out the carbon dioxide emission of different countries. I got all the charts. If time permits, I'll mention a few. How can everyone have sufficient clean water without conflict? How can population growth and resources be brought into balance? Some countries have restricted or have population control, but not all other countries. So there is no balance. How can genuine democracy emerge from authoritarian regimes? I have seen on TV, in some countries, children exploited. In some countries, girls are brought from the villages, given bunk beds, 3 bunk beds in a row, and working 14 hours a day and 6 days a week, and getting only bare necessities of life. In many countries, people are not employed. So, we require democratic approach to the problems. How can decision making be enhanced? In some countries, only a few people make the decisions. How can the global convergence of information and communications technologies work for everyone? How can ethical market economies be encouraged to help reduce the gap between the rich and the poor? There are rich countries, poor countries. Within the rich country also, some people are very, very rich, some people are poor. Within the developing countries also, a few people are very rich and millions are destitute, without shelter, without food. How can the threat of new and re-emerging diseases be reduced? Re-emerging diseases, for example, at the moment, global pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, how to protect ourselves from different types of diseases. How can education make humanity more intelligent, knowable? Swami Vivekananda also has addressed these questions in 19th century. How can shared values and new security strategies reduce ethnic conflict, terrorism, the use of weapons of mass destruction? You know, all the conflicts at the moment in different parts of the world. Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and many other countries. How can the status of women help improve the human conditions? In many countries, women do not have access to education. There is a big gap How can transnational organized crime networks be stopped from becoming more powerful? How can growing energy demands be met safely and efficiently? How can scientific and technological breakthroughs be accelerated to improve human conditions? How can science be used for human development, for the basic necessities of life? How can ethical considerations become more incorporated into global decisions? At the moment, economy is driven by profit, but not by ethical considerations. So, before mentioning how Indian philosophy can solve some global problems, I would like to say a few words about the way in which Indian concept of philosophy is broader than its Western counterpart. So I will start with the word Indian concept of philosophy and Indian concept of dharma. If we understand these two, then we can understand how to go about it, how to solve the problems. Unfortunately, Indian concepts have not been widely discussed in the world. There are only a few places where Indian philosophy is taught in the Department of Philosophy in the world. Very few places. The word philosophy in Western culture means, as you know, all of you, love of wisdom, as it is derived from the words philo means wisdom and sophia means love. In the context of Indian culture, it has a wide connotation, as the following three words have been used: Moksha Shastra, Anikshiki, and Darshana. I am very grateful to my gurus. I would like to mention especially two Panditjis. One, Pandit Vishwabandhu Tarkatitha, the last surviving, he was the last surviving scholar, he was the last scholar of the Nabbanaya tradition. And he passed away some 15 years ago. As well as Pandit Dinesh Chandra Shastri, the great Vedantin. So it is called Moksha Shastra, means the science of liberation or freedom from all types of suffering. The philosophy itself addresses the question freedom from suffering. In Indian metaphysics, freedom means liberation from bondage. I got a paper, a chart on this topic. Whether you can all see or not, I am not sure. It is a chart on freedom, different senses of freedom in the East and the West. If I get time, then I will point out a few things. So Indian philosophers have used the word moksha nibbana to refer to the metaphysical concept of freedom. In spite of a range of meanings, the word moksha in different systems of Indian philosophy, all of them have accepted one cardinal meaning, namely cessation of all types of suffering. In Buddhism alone, I found 7 senses of nirvana. moksha. But there is one cardinal meaning which has been accepted by all the of all types of suffering. Hence, I would like to mention the following 3 types of suffering discussed by the major systems of Indian philosophy, such as Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vedanta, Buddhism, Jainism, and so on. It is claimed that human beings are affected by sufferings that are due to body. Adhi bhautik. Sufferings due to body. If you have body, you have to suffer. Sufferings due to natural disasters. Adhi doibik. Sufferings due to mental conditions. Adhatmik. Hence, the sufferings due to old age, disease will come under Adhi bhautik category. How to alleviate beings from this type of suffering? But the sufferings caused by global warming, flood, earthquake, tsunami, or climate change will come under Adhi doibik. It is to be noted that the climate change due to global warming is caused by actions of human beings. Hence, the term Adhi doibik should not always be interpreted as natural disasters or acts of God. In insurance paper, you will come across the line that you are not covered by acts of God. Similarly, I am claiming now, sufferings due to COVID-19 may be caused by the actions of human beings. So all the sufferings are not, all the Adhi doibik sufferings are not due to acts of God or natural disasters. Some of them are, some of them are not. But sufferings such as alienation, you feel nobody loves you. You are thrown into this world. Abandonment, these terms have become very popular. You are abandoned in this world. Loneliness, I feel lonely. Anxiety are considered mental sufferings, as well as there are sufferings called spiritual. Due to certain questions, due to certain thoughts, we may suffer. So they are called adhatmik. I will include them under this category, mental or spiritual. Existentialist philosophers such as Kierkegaard, Heidegger, Sartre, Camus are also concerned with this type of suffering. I do not have much time, otherwise I would have mentioned their concept of anxiety. Kierkegaard defines human beings in terms of anxiety. He claims that animals do not have anxiety, but human beings do have. So they draw a sharp distinction between human beings and animals. And their conception of human beings, I got a separate paper on this topic, but perhaps we do not have much time to cover all these topics. Just I am quoting a passage from Winston King, who has summarized in one sentence the sufferings or the anxiety mentioned by existentialist thinkers. And he wrongly compares existentialism with Buddhism. I have mentioned in one of my papers, but I am quoting his view about existentialism. To quote Winston King, one has left behind the miasmatic swamps of human passion. Miasmatic swamps is dirty, filthy, full of, bad smell and so on. It is like a hell. That is called miasmatic swamps of human passion, permeated by an overpowering sense of obscure guilt, where friend and foe can be distinguished only with difficulty. That means you do not know who is your friend, who is your foe. But only to find oneself alone in an infinitely complicated maze in which he, like a lost soul or lost no soul, is condemned to wander endlessly about looking for an exit from this dark and lonely misery, but finding none. So some of these existentialist thinkers think you are thrown into a maze full of sufferings and there is no exit from this type of suffering. Even Camus has not ruled out committing suicide, because some of the existentialist philosophers think that there is no meaning in life. Although Sartre has not said that, Sartre defines human beings in terms of freedom. In terms of freedom, which is not due to some constraint. Freedom from other constraints. You are free when you act of your own. Not that my parents told me to do this, that is why I have done it. The scripture says, that is why I have done it. But you exercise, it is an upsurge. He uses the word upsurge. Now, Indian philosophers, from the very dawn of its civilization, have claimed that life has a meaning. It is not meaningless. So we got 4 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. They are related, interrelated. Dharma will lead us to moksha if practiced in a certain way. And then they have not ignored artha and kama. So Indian philosophers have not condemned human beings or have not claimed that there is no exit. All of them have claimed that you can achieve the highest goal of life. These sufferings may also be due to certain thoughts, desires. Hence, in order to save mankind from total extinction or the world from total destruction, it is necessary to address the question of freedom from suffering at personal, social, and global levels. As you know, in the context of Indian philosophy, medical science Susrutusing, and so on were parts of philosophy. Charok Sangita and so on. So, the very conception of philosophy claims that we should try to alleviate the suffering of beings. First point. Secondly, Anikshiki. Anikshiki has been mentioned in Kautilya. Sanskrit, Pradipa, Sarva Vidyanam, Ubaya, Sarva Karmanam, Asraya, Sarva Dharmanam, Sasat Anikshiki Mata. Kautilya. What does it mean? The word Anikshiki has been defined as one lamp of all the sciences, such as physics, biology, material science, mathematics, psychology, etc. Any science you pick up, there will be certain fundamental questions. For example, mathematics, you are all familiar with. What is zero? What is 1, 2 numbers? Physics, what is causation? What is time? What is space? And so on. What is life? So all the fundamental questions of science will come under philosophy, Anikshiki. Then it will give you methods for doing anything in a better way. That is why logic is part of it. Anikshiki includes logic. If you know logic, then you can do things in a better way. And philosophy deals with ends and means. If you want to achieve a particular goal, a particular end, how to organize yourself, how to organize the means for achieving that goal. So it deals with any action which can be performed in a better way. Third one, if you want to know what virtue is, what I ought to do and what I ought not to do, virtue, you have to approach philosophy. Third one, darshana. In ordinary language, the word darshana is to be understood as visual perception. But in the context of philosophy, it means apprehension through mind. Manas chakkur darshana. I am grateful to Pandit Dinesh Shastri for pointing out this aspect. Manas chakkur darshana. It implies apprehension or realization of the ultimate reality. So darshana is the indirect realization of the truths about ultimate reality through the study of scriptures, through the discourse with a guru. In the context of Indian philosophy, not only are the questions of Western philosophy discussed, but also the methods for realizing certain truths or practicing or promoting certain values have been introduced. So it deals with theory as well as practice, how to achieve certain goals. So the word, he is a philosopher, darshanik, has a different connotation in Indian culture. It means that he is knowledgeable person, he is a just person, he is at least to some extent non-selfish, and there is a sloka in the ancient tradition. Who is Pandit? Jo Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu Pashyati Sa Pandita. Who is Pandit? The person who treats others, who is a realized person, who treats others in the same way as he treats himself. Great saying. It is ancient literature. Great saying. So the knowledge is not simply which is in your intellect. Knowledge is to be realized in life. And this is what Swami Vivekananda was trying to do. So, I am claiming, hence, it does not end with theorizing activities. Darshana is intended to use the language of Wittgenstein, a great philosopher, to show the fly the way out of the fly bottle. So, philosophers will show us how to go about our life. Philosophers will add meaning to our life. Philosophy, Indian philosophy, will add meaning to our life and how to achieve certain goals and how to practice in life and how to promote in society as well as at global level. Similarly, now the concept of dharma cannot be translated as religion and ethics. If you know what concept of dharma is in Indian philosophy, then you know a lot about it. And I'm very grateful to some of my gurus for pointing out the concept of dharma. This is due to the fact it cannot be translated as religion or ethics. What happens that we always try to interpret in terms of Western terms and concepts. Western terms and concepts. And it is mentioned at the beginning of the British rule. I will point out how our culture has been distorted. We use the word either ethics or religion for our dharma, which cannot be.
Sir, can't hear you. Can't hear you, sir. Hello? Out of the screen? Choitali?
Not audible.
Technical problem is there?
I think there is some technical problem.
Technical problems, yes.
Shall we wait?
Why sir is not audible? I can't see him. Any
I
technical
think we
problem?
should wait.
Shweta, you are here?
Yes. I think it got disconnected. So we should wait for sir.
Yes. It will come soon.
Kulanidhi, you can try to contact him.
Able to hear. We are not able to hear Professor Shaw.
We can't hear him. We can see him but can't hear him. I think there is some problem.
What's happened?
I think it got
Technical problem.
disconnected.
Suddenly it went off. Why is it?
Kulanidhi, could you contact him?
Yes, he is joining. Joytalidhi, sir is joining.
Okay, thank you, Shweta.
শুনতে পাচ্ছো?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you now, but we were waiting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
But suddenly it got disconnected. We don't know what happened.
Your voice is not coming over.
Okay. Now can you hear? Just a moment.
We
Yes,
can hear you now.
sir.
We can hear you
Now
now.
it's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, now it's okay. Now
It is
you
now
can continue, sir.
okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm
Let
sorry.
Umesh speak. Umesh.
I'm really sorry if there's these
Some
mechanisms
technical
time to
problem.
time technical problems, and there is no IT with me to help me. So in any
It's okay,
case,
sir. It's okay, sir. It
It's
happens.
okay.
it happens. I'm very sorry. Now I'm quoting a passage from Macaulay. Lord Macaulay has given us a glimpse of what colonization meant when he said, and still we have not overcome it. I have traveled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. Address to the British Parliament, 2nd February 1835. So we are trying to interpret our culture, our philosophy in terms of their terms. For that reason, I claim that dharma cannot be translated as ethics or religion. The word dharma derived from the root meaning. I have discussed 6 levels of meaning in another paper of mine. One is etymological meaning. So here I am mentioning etymological meaning. Derived from the root dhri and man. Dhri means to hold and man means agent. So the word dharma means that which holds or supports. I am quoting some passages from different books. What is dharma? The root meaning. Dharma supports the world. Dharati lokan. Sanskrit. Dharma supports the human society as well as the world. Yo lokan dharayati yena manava samajo dhita sa dharma. Dharma is the foundation of the universe as well as the world. Dharma vishasya jagata pratishtha. Dharma also leads to something higher, such as peace and bliss. Ya eva sreyaskara sa eva dharma shabdena uchyate. Dharma, if you put to an end of dharma, then it will put an end to you. If you restore dharma, then it will restore you. Our Ramayana and Mahabharata are dealing with this. Dharma not only supports, but also nourishes. Dharana poshanayo. Dharma leads to happiness as well as beatitude. Yato abhuddaya nisreyasa siddhi sa dharma. Dharma leads to a higher state or more noble state, but adharma leads to a lower and degraded state. Dharmena gamanam urdha gamanam adhastat bhavati adharmena. Then, very important point, dharma is real or truth. Yo dharma sattam vaitat. Pandit Dineshji Shastri, my guru, pointed out. And it is mentioned in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And I have quoted a passage, but because of time constraint, I am not mentioning that passage from Brihadaranyaka. It is 1.4.14. Since dharma is equated with truth, it substantiates scientific investigation. It is like a science. You have to find out this is what supports the world, what alleviates the suffering, what is real happiness, and how dharma will lead to it. You have to discover. You have to investigate. Hence, it is not opposed to reason, as scientific truths are discoveries. Dharma, far from being faith or blind faith, has its roots in reason, justified by reason. One Swami Vivekananda used to say or said that the portion of the Vedas which is rational is to be accepted. I will mention Vivekananda just after reading this page. Hence, the laws of dharma are as real as the laws of nature. It is to be noted that these formulations give us general directions or for rules or maxims. They are called maxims or general directions or the rules, supreme principles. I should say supreme principles. And I will compare these principles with Kant. Although Kant's morality was confined to human beings. All of you are familiar with Kant, especially two categorical imperatives I will mention. One is, what is the action which is moral? That which is universalizable. Second principle, he says, never treat human beings as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. He mentions human beings, not the animals. Now, Indian concept of dharma, it mentions all living beings, the world, the nature at large. Second point, that particular principles, what should I do now? And so on, whether to help this needy person or not to help this needy person. Whether to feed my dog or cats, we require specific principles, specific rules. But that rule will be in accordance with the supreme principle. So, particular rules of dharma should be consistent with the supreme principle. Hence, they are to be compared with the categorical imperative of Kant. That is a big topic to compare Kant with Hindu ethics or Indian ethics. The particular laws or moral codes of dharma it is mentioned in Manu. Particular rules or codes of dharma are to be learned from each generation. We are missing this. In the light of modern situation, in the light of contemporary situation, we have to reinterpret dharma. And I talked to Pandit Dinesh Shastri, he says he agreed, fully agreed with us. And he had a plan, we had a plan long time ago, 28 years ago nearly, to rewrite Dharma Shastra, which is to be rewritten in every generation. So I'm claiming what Manu has quoted, that dharma, the moral codes of dharma are to be learned from each generation, from what has been observed or allowed by learned persons who are good and ever free from hatred and inordinate affections. So you have to include our pandits, include our dharmic people who are free from inordinate affections, who are free from hatred, who are free from selfishness, who have satisfied the requirements of Pandit. Jo Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu Pashyati Sa Pandita. He who treats others in the same way as he treats himself. So, hence the specific rules of dharma are not fixed for all time to come. Specific rules. The rules are evolutionary in nature and consistent with the theory of adaptation. Hence, there are rules such as violence is adharma. Violence. But speaking the truth is dharma. Not only so, they have discussed also when there is a conflict between these rules, then higher rule will supervene. For example, hence there are rules such as violence is adharma, but speaking the truth is dharma. Violence is adharma if it leads to suffering. And ultimately, it will eliminate the entire living being. But when there is a conflict between the rules, then some rules will prevail over others, like ahimsa paramo dharma. And regarding violence, I have come across in the yoga system has mentioned 81 types of violence. 3 of them cardinal or non-derivative. So 81 types of violence they have mentioned. 3 of them are cardinal or non-derivative, means you cannot derive one from another. One is first, killing or torturing someone. Second, ordering to kill or torture someone. Third one, approving of killing or torture. My interpretation of the word approval is a bit wider. The word approval implies both implicit and explicit approval. Remaining silent or not opposing violence is also another type of approval. This is what I intend to include. If you do not oppose a violence, then it is like implicit approval. Here the word violence is used in such a way that the cause leading to violence or destruction is also considered as violence. Now, each of these three cardinal violences has got three types. Torturing due to personal gain or greed of worldly possessions. Killing or torture due to anger, for example, revenge. Killing or torture due to infatuation or ignorance about reality. For example, X kills Y in order to achieve a goal. Here the means, killing or torturing, is unfair, but the goal is fair. But you cannot use in Indian concept the maxim end justifies the means. No. In the Second World War, end justifies the means was used. Sometimes soldiers are used to clear the mines. They know that they will die, but the order is let people die and clear the mines. But in Indian concept, end justifies the means is not accepted. It is Machiavelli's principle. Means also should be non-violent. So each of them, greed, anger, infatuation, are of three types. One is low, supple, low, mild. Another is medium, middle, intense. Hence there are altogether 27 types. 3 times 3 times 3, 27. And again, each of the last three are of three types. One is mild, mild, medium, intense, medium, mild, medium, intense, medium. Mild, intense, medium, intense means very intense. Hence, there are altogether 81 types of violence. 27 multiplied by 3. In the yoga system, these types have been discussed. And yoga system is very, very old. Shankar Yoga, they are twin sisters, very old systems. So our culture is at least several thousand years old, 7 to 10,000 at least. Lokmanya Tilak used to say it is 11,000 years old. Vedas. I am not sure how old it is. If there is any conflict between the rules, then the higher rules will prevail. It is to be noted that the word dharma cannot be translated as ethics in the Western sense. Second point. This is due to the fact that ethics in Western civilization is considered as normative science of the conduct of human beings living in societies. Quote and unquote. I have quoted. It is concerned with the conduct of the human beings living in societies. Hence, the ethical or moral judgments are passed on the conduct of human beings living in societies, especially how it affects others. But the Indian concept of dharma goes far beyond the conduct of human beings living in societies. Some of them I have derived from the lectures of Swami Vivekananda. I have included all of them. It deals with the conduct of human beings living in societies, conduct of human beings not living in societies, such as living in caves, the behavior of human beings towards animals, such as cats and dogs, the behavior towards plants, the behavior towards inanimate objects like mountains, rivers. When Tenzing Norgay scaled the Mount Everest, he had a feeling of reverence. He did not use any swear words, but not everyone is the same. Secondly, thoughts not expressed in behavior, Swami Vivekananda. Thoughts not expressed in behavior. You should not have any defiled thought. It is mentioned in all the systems of Indian philosophy and popularized by Swami Vivekananda. The dreams, experiences which are due to dispositions of waking life, even the dream experiences are free from defile feelings or defilements. Moreover, it deals with the ethical values of our experiences, including thoughts and dreams. Hence, dharma cannot be equated with religion, as it is not based on blind faith or dogma. Dharma is purely a science, scientific investigation, what supports the world, what alleviates the suffering. You find out from your experience, from scientific investigation. Moreover, it is not opposed to science. It is purely rational, not based on any faith or dogmatic faith. Hence, it cannot be translated as ethics in the Western sense, as it deals with the behavior of human beings, overt or covert, towards all other beings or nature at large. Moreover, it is not moreover, it deals with the ethical value of our experiences, including thoughts and dreams. Now, I'm claiming that dharma leads to purification of our soul. Not only so, dharma is all pervasive. If you cut fruits, if you cut trees with fruits and flowers, then there is an expiation ceremony, praschitto, that you have done something wrong. Now I am claiming how dharma leads to spirituality. Dharmic activities would purify our thoughts, desires, or mind as a whole, chitta shuddhi. This is due to the fact that they are opposed to violence, falsehood, malign intentions, dishonesty, backbiting, and so on. The thought which is free from defilement, bimala jnana, is also equated with the realization of moksha or nirvana. If you have bimala jnana, chitta shuddhi, then you have attained nirvana or moksha. In this context, the following prayers may be mentioned as they lead to dharmic activities. The prayer: let everyone be happy, free from sickness and disease. Sarve sukhino santu, sarve santu niramaya. By offering water, I invite the beings who are starving, who are fallen from righteousness, If you have fallen from righteousness, then dharma can lift you. Niraharascha ya jiva.
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Sir, we cannot hear you. Kolanidhi.
I think it's got disconnected, Chaitalidi.
I think it is disconnected again. So, shall I ask Kolanidhi to contact Dr. Shaw?
Yes, I think so. Kolanidhi, Kolanidhi, can you hear me, Kolanidhi?
Kolanidhi. Kolanidhi. She is there. Shweta, contact Kolanidhi. Kolanidhi. Oh, yeah.
Unmute Kolam.
Kolanidhi, unmute your device.
Sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, unmute yourself. Sir, you got muted. Please unmute yourself, sir. Sir, please unmute. Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you
Yes,
hear
sir.
me now?
Yes, yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Please
Okay.
continue.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
sir, it's
this
okay.
is happening. So this one, I will try to cut short so that we can finish in another, how long? Let us say at least half an hour.
Okay, sir.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, 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 sir.
Okay. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. So dharma, it is prayers referred to friends as well as who are not friends, everybody. Friends in previous life who expect anything from us. Moreover, second point, the dharmic activities would reduce our egoistic, hedonistic attitudes and thereby pave the way for the realization of I consciousness, which is called Kotritta Abhiman. It will dissolve our I consciousness mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Kotritta Abhiman. This is how we participate in the feelings of other beings, both human and non-human. Dharmic activities would help us in realizing certain supra-mundane experiences. It is called nirveda or tranquility, and generate bhakti rasa or spirit of dedication. Bhakti means spirit of dedication, which would lead us to the realization of higher values such as renunciation. Now, furthermore, they would unite us with others, including the living beings or the nature at large. Dharmic activities will unite us with every being. This is Advaita Vedanta, oneness of Swami Vivekananda also. From our above discussion, it follows that morality or dharma is related to spirituality. Spirituality is not something which we cannot understand. It is very clear to us. When your mind is free from defilement, you have realized spirituality. When you treat everybody in the same way, you have realized spirituality. Now, I will introduce Swami Vivekananda. In this paper, I would like to discuss the current problems such as conflicts between nations, religions or cultures, and the global pandemic due to COVID-19. All of them can be solved by using the techniques of Advaita Vedanta as interpreted by Swami Vivekananda. We come across the application of Advaita concept of oneness in the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. He calls it practical Vedanta, not preaching or simply teaching, but how to realize it in life here and now. He used to say here and now. He has discussed this conception in several places, especially in the context of conflicts between different religions or between sects of the same religion, or in the context of philosophical views such as controversy between idealism, materialism, realism, idealism, and so on. He has used this technique of Advaita Vedanta oneness to resolve the conflict. In order to solve some of the disputes between different faiths, now sometimes Swamiji uses the word faiths, but I would say that Hinduism is not based on faith, it is purely scientific. Swamiji introduces the concept of oneness. Hence, one in many, unity in diversity becomes the central theme of Swamiji's philosophy. This oneness has been introduced in various ways in different contexts, and it has been explained by using several analogies and metaphors. Excellent, Swamiji's view. The application of this oneness at the social or the global level, I will point out how to apply it at global level, will make the world nuclear free, armament free, terror free, global warming free. This is how we can demonstrate the relevance of Indian philosophy to the current situations, which is ridden with stripes and conflicts. Let us discuss some of the context where Swamiji has introduced oneness to resolve the conflicts and thereby pave the way for harmony. First one, he has quoted this passage in several places from the Vedas. That which exists is one, but sages call it by the various names. Ekam sat vipra bodha vadanti. Many, many places. That means the oneness introduced in the context of religions of the world is the goal of all religions. Since there is the same goal to be realized, the difference between religions will be in names only. Hence, all the religions form a unity, and the difference are diverse aspects of the same goal. This goal is freedom from suffering and the realization of certain values, both moral and spiritual. Now, the point is, if a religion does not preach non-violence, but preaches violence, if a religion does not alleviate our sufferings, sufferings of human beings, sufferings of sentient beings, then it is not to be called religion. Because the aim of religion is to reduce suffering. So if there are several religions and all of them aim at the reduction of sufferings, follow the path of peace and harmony, then the difference between them is only in name, not in substance. So it applies to many religions of the world, but I should not say all the dogmas, all the blind faiths. Second one, he says, Swamiji claims that every religion must be universal if it is to be called religion in the true sense of the term. To quote, religious ideas will have to become universal, vast and infinite. From this remark of Swamiji, it follows that moral and social virtues such as brotherhood, friendship, justice, if practiced only among the members of a sect or a religious group, then the sect or the religious group does not represent the universals of religion. You have set up a school. You cannot say only the followers of this sect are to be admitted. Then it is not universal. You have set up a hospital. You cannot say only the followers of this sect are to be admitted. I heard from some of my friends in Southeast Asia, including Indian continent, a few generations ago. They told me they became Christian. I asked why. Otherwise, we could not get admission into schools, Christian schools. They told me. Then it is not real religion. It should be, according to Swamiji, it should be vast. It should not discriminate. Universal. According to Swamiji, religious truths are both universal as well as eternal, he says. Eternal here means that you should practice always. For example, brotherhood, justice, and love are virtues. Here, eternal means that they will guide us always. Justice, brotherhood, love are virtues. The means to the realization of the ultimate goal of life. They must be universal. Hence, they cannot be confined to the believers of any particular faith, such as Christianity or Islam. Hence, the principle, which is applicable to everyone without any exception or discrimination, is the manifestation of oneness in religion. So he defines what is called religion also. Another point, very important, Again, Swamiji claims that the principles of religion should not contradict reason. To quote Swamiji, the first test of true teaching must be that the teaching should not contradict reason. He relies heavily on reason. It should be rational. We should be guided by reason, not by blind faith. The first test of true teaching must be that the teaching should not contradict reason. In other words, the principles of ethics and religion should be justified on rational grounds. As I mentioned, our concept of dharma is justified on rational grounds. They are truths. They are on a par with scientific truths and investigations. Since both the ethical and the religious doctrines are justified on rational grounds, they are not dependent on any personal supernatural being for their justification and thereby acceptance. In this respect, Swamiji's teaching has far-reaching consequences. Kant in the Western tradition has tried to make ethics independent of religion, but Swamiji has tried to make both ethics and religion independent of any supernatural being. Hence, he has reified human beings and thereby asserted the identity between the soul and the ultimate reality. Now, it is a big topic I have discussed somewhere else, compared Kant with Swamiji. Kant, for the first time in Western civilization, to my knowledge, has tried to make ethics independent of supernatural being or God. He claims his categorical imperative, treat human beings never merely as a means to an end, but as an end in itself, is a supreme principle. Similarly, if your action is ethical, moral, then it is universalizable. These are voice of practical reason. Human beings have got theoretical reason and practical reason. So it is the voice of practical reason in human beings. But Kant failed to make it independent of supernatural being or God, because he claimed that in this world, moral beings suffer, immoral beings sometimes do not suffer. So he postulated afterlife and postulated God. But Swami Vivekananda, without postulating God or without postulating afterlife, made morality, spirituality independent of any living being. He also made religion independent of any dubious supernatural being. Every human being, every living being is a palpable living God. Nietzsche said, another sometimes termed as existentialist philosopher, he says, God is dead. So you are permitted to do anything you like. But Swamiji claimed we have palpable living God everywhere. So I'm claiming, he claims, sometimes he says that different religions, those who differ only in names, have the same common values. And he has quoted a passage from Bhagavad Gita, I am the thread that runs through all these pearls. These pearls are nothing but moral values, dharmic actions, dharma. Same moral values. So he says, if one religion is true, then all others also must be true. Thus the Hindu faith is yours as much as mine. This is applicable to the religions which are rational, which are universal. Once the underlying identity is realized, we can all say with Swamiji that if one religion is true, then all others also must be true. Thus the Hindu faith is yours as much as mine. The thread which unites all religions is the principle which is justified on rational grounds, which is universal. So this is applicable to the religions which are universal, which are rational, which aims to alleviate the suffering of living beings, but not to religions which aggravates the suffering. Moreover, the God of Swamiji is not external to our soul. He has reified human beings. It is to be realized in every soul. He says, the end of all religions is the realizing of God in the soul. That is one universal religion. If there is one universal truth in all religions, I place it here in realizing God. And the realization of God, he explains further. According to Swamiji, one becomes religious when one sees God in others. Sarva Bhute. He claims, I shall call you religious from the day you begin to see God in men and women. You see his language, men and women. He even identified human beings with God. He says, every man and woman is the palpable, blissful, living God. So God, according to Nietzsche, is dead, but God of Swamiji is a palpable, living God. This identification justifies the principles of ethics and religion, and thereby ethics and religion become autonomous, not dependent on any supernatural or unmanifested being. The millions of waves do not destroy the unity of the ocean. It remains the same. This analogy may be used to establish the unity of all these religions we have mentioned, including the religions which do not accept any personal God or deities. Different religions are manifestations of the same ideal. You do not have to accept God or divinity, a supernatural being, in order to practice a religion or to become a religious person. Hence, the oneness or the unity is not external to any religion. It is the very basis of religion, without which a religion cannot exist, as the waves cannot exist without the ocean. So different religions are like different waves of the ocean. The reality is given different names by the sages. Hence, the harmony will be achieved when you realize that everything is the manifestation of the same reality. Since Swamiji has used this analogy in several places, it seems to us that the unity he is postulating has its roots in everything. And it is this unity which sustains and preserves diversity. So he is not opposed to diversity. He claims even in one place that you can worship your Ishtadevata. You can create one. I got a paper on this point also in the context of freedom. Every person is free to worship his or her chosen deity, Ishtadevata. And you can create one also. So he respects the personality or the individuality of each being. Every being is unique, personal, and we have to respect their Ishtadevata. We should not impose our Ishtadevata on others. You have freedom to worship your own deity, Ishtadevata. You can create also one. It is a great, great saying. I think human beings will take some time to realize the importance of Swami Vivekananda. He also says, I and we, I and you. Without the I, there can be no you outside. And it resolves, I have said elsewhere, the conflict between skepticism, solipsism, by using this technique. You form one unity, one cannot be known without the other. I and you form one unity. That means in order to know I have to know you. In order to know you, I have to know I. They form one unity. Hence, they are two sides of the same coin. Since selfishness has its roots in the emphasis on I, the unity between I and you would make us unselfish and thereby would bring about harmony both at the individual and the social levels. Hence, the well-being of the I presupposes the well-being of the you. He claims I and you are two sides of the same coin. Moreover, Swamiji has emphasized the unity between body and mind, between matter and thought. Russell is dealing with this topic from philosophical perspective. And he postulated neutral monism, that matter and mind are two branches of neutral monism. But Swamiji echoed this idea long before Bertrand Russell. The well-being of the body, he says, dependent on the well-being of the mind and vice versa. Hence, neither asceticism nor hedonism will promote the good of an individual. This concept of unity emphasizes the good of the totality or the whole. Since the self is the whole or the totality, the good of the self lies in the good of the body and mind. Again, the unity among individuals has been asserted by postulating equal potentialities in each individual. It is claimed that there is divinity in each individual. Each individual is a manifestation of the same divine consciousness. To quote Swamiji, potentially each one of us has that infinite ocean of existence, knowledge, and bliss as our birthright. our real nature, the difference between us is caused by greater or lesser power to manifest that divine or divinity. Now, Russell differs from Swamiji in that respect. Swamiji claims that potentially there is divinity in each individual, potentially. Sometimes it is said in Christian tradition that all human beings are equal, but in the eye of God. But Swamiji claims that potentially everybody is divine. So everybody deserves justice. Everybody deserves equality. Here, the unity has been asserted by postulating the same unlimited potentiality in each individual. By assigning divinity to each individual, hence each individual is actually divine and potentially infinite. Now, Swamiji claims postulated unity not only in each individual and among human beings, but also in the whole of this universe, which includes everything. To quote Swamiji, the whole of this universe is one unity, one existence, physically, mentally, morally, spiritually. We are looking upon this one existence in different forms and creating all these images upon it. Again, there is unity between body and mind, between matter and spirit, between human beings and other creatures in the universe as a whole. Similarly, there is unity among all the parts for the realization of the ultimate goal of life, which is free from bondage. Each of the parts, path of knowledge, there is an internal dispute among the different systems of Indian philosophy, which I have discussed elsewhere, regarding the paths for the realization of the ultimate goal of life. Jnana, karma, and bhakti. I got a chart here which includes that some systems emphasize knowledge, some systems emphasize devotion, dedication, some systems emphasize action, karma, unselfish action. But Swamiji claims that all of them crisscross. There is not really so much difference between knowledge, to quote Swamiji, and love, bhakti, as people sometimes imagine. We shall see as we go on that in the end, they converge, meet at the same point. So also it is with Raja Yoga. So from our discussion, it follows that Swamiji is postulating unity wherever we come across discord or conflict, which is a source of suffering or unhappiness. This theoretical side is to be supplemented with the practical side so that the unity can be realized, at least to some extent, in this life, according to Swamiji, here and now. Hence, Swamiji has addressed the question of unity between theory and practice in his lectures on practical Vedanta. Once the gap between theory and practice is bridged, we realize the unity here and now. Swamiji claims it is imperative that all these various yogas should be carried out in practice. Mere theories about them will not do any good. Religion is realization, not talk, not doctrine, not theories, however beautiful they may be. So we have to realize these goals. And I'm claiming that the United Nations Charter should realize these goals, at least at the level of human beings. Equality, justice, bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, eliminate the sufferings. As regards the question how to realize this in our life, Swamiji says, the first step towards realization of religion is to give up all types of superstition. We have to overcome a huge mass of ancient superstition, ancestral superstition, class superstition, city superstition, country superstition. Great. In 19th century, he is talking about including country superstition. Behind all the vast mass of superstition that is innate in every human being. We have to overcome this superstition. Since ignorance is the root cause of superstition, we require knowledge or proper understanding to remove these semi-innate superstitions. So we require proper education. Education not to teach hatred, but to teach love, to illuminate our mind with unselfishness. So Swamiji says, once our superstitions are removed, the feeling of superiority on the basis of caste, color, creed, region, language, and nation will disappear. And thereby, some of the causes of discord or envy, jealousy will be eliminated. Secondly, we have to foster fellow feeling and love towards others with utmost sincerity. When it comes to love, we are carried away by Swamiji's expressions. According to Swamiji, this love has no boundary. It does not discriminate between the I and the you. As he says, love for yourself means love for all. Who can say? Advaitin. Love for animals, which is not mentioned in the United Nations Charter. Love for everything, which is not mentioned in every so-called religious doctrines based on faith or blind faith. Love for you, all one. Love for you are all one. It is a great saying which will make the world better. Swamiji even went one step further and identified religion with love. He says, it is in love that religion exists, not in ceremony. We end up with ceremony. Ceremony is the beginning of religion. All the rituals are beginnings of religion. Love is the gate to all the secrets of the universe. Love opens the most impossible gates. Love also produces some practical results which will help in reducing suffering of others and thereby pave the way for the realization of freedom and bliss. To quote Swamiji, he who sees Shiva in the poor, in the weak, in the diseased, really worships Shiva. He who has served and helped one poor man, seeing Shiva in him without thinking of his caste or creed or race or anything, with him Shiva is more pleased than with the man who sees him only in temples. Swamiji even identified life with love. he says, life is love. When a man ceases to do good to others, he is dead spiritually. Great, great saying. There is no question about it. What Swamiji has said and what Swamiji has preached, there is no question about it. Another I am quoting another passage of Swamiji. Love binds, love makes for that oneness. You become one, the mother with the child, families with the city, the whole world becomes one with the animals. For love is existence, God Himself. So what is God? God is love. Again he says, love cannot come through fear. Its basis is freedom. His conception of freedom is love. Love comes from freedom. When we really begin to love the world, then we understand what is meant by brotherhood or mankind and not before. Page 322. Now here I am quoting a passage from Einstein's letter to his daughter. Hence, the love of Swamiji is not a wishful thinking or emotion present as a mere feeling. Rather, it does something positive to alleviate the suffering of others. So his love, it is not just a feeling. It alleviates the sufferings of others. There is no selfish motive in our actions which are due to love. Hence, the combination of knowledge, love, and unselfish action will lead us to the ultimate goal or realization of the highest good. So, not mere love. Love means you act to alleviate the suffering. You love other beings means you act to alleviate their sufferings. Albert Einstein conception of love, I am quoting him, there is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to. It is a force that includes and governs all others and is even behind any phenomenon in the universe and has not yet been identified by us. This universal force is love. So he postulates love as a universal force behind all forces. To quote Einstein again, love is light that enlightens those who give and receive it. That means it will enlighten you as well as those who receive your love. Love is gravity because it makes some people feel attracted to others. Love is power because it multiplies the best we have. In the Upanishads, it is said that virtuous actions will multiply. Anand multiplies. If you spread Anand, then you are not exhausted thereby. It multiplies. Similarly, love multiplies the best we have, it says. and allows humanity not to be extinguished in their blind selfishness. Love unfolds and reveals, for love will live and die. Love is God and God is love. Swamiji also said, long before Einstein, that God is love. God is love. This force explains everything and gives meaning to life. If we want our species to survive, he calls it species means human beings. If we are to find meaning in life, if we want to save the world and every sentient beings that inhabits it, love is the one and only answer. He also says that love will destroy hate, selfishness, and greed. Love is the quintessence of life. Great. A particular, now I am raising an issue. So long we talked about love, Swamiji's love, Einstein's love, and Swamiji claims you have to remove superstition, including country superstition, and so on. So a particular individual may sacrifice everything unselfishly for the promotion of the good of another individual or a group of individuals. But the question is how he or she can remove the suffering of a large community when there is a very wide gap between the haves and have-nots, between the rich and the poor, between the developing and the developing, between the developing and the developed nations. If religion is to be made practical, then it should be achieved now and everywhere. As Swamiji says, now the time has come when it should be carried into practice, not only in the country, in this country, but everywhere. Moreover, since we have to realize the goal of religion through our body, we have to make ourselves healthy. As Swamiji says, he was far ahead of his time. First of all, our young men must be strong. Religion will come afterwards. You will be nearer to heaven through football than through the study of the Gita. So you have to make your body strong. You require food, water, shelter, education, and so on. Now, I would like to discuss whether freedom from suffering can be realized at social or global levels, even if it can be realized at the individual level. So the question is how to realize at a social and global level when there is such a wide gap between the haves and have-nots, between the rich and the poor, between the developing and developed nations. If philosophy is to be practical, as Indian philosophy is, then we must address this question. At present, approximately 20% of the global population of the world own 60% of the land and natural resources. In Oceania, Oceania means Australia, New Zealand. Oceania, 0.5% of the global population occupy 6.3% of the land. While in Asia, approximately 60% of the global population is living in 20% of the land. Hence, the density of the population in Asia is nearly 40 times higher than that of Oceania. 40 times sheer ratio between land and people. Similarly, the per capita gross national product in some countries such as US and Australia is 80 times higher than that of developing nations, sometimes even higher. The socio-economic condition of the nations may also be summarized in the following way. Moreover, I would like to mention here this global pandemic. It could have been restricted. It has made rich people richer, richer nations richer. Not only individuals, but also some nations have exploited this situation. Moreover, it is due to the, I read in some papers, due to the negligence of the WHO. At present, 20% of the global population living in developed countries consume 16 times more than the 20% of the global population living in developing countries. The GDP of 20% of the global population living in developed countries is 20 times higher. The gap between the rich and the poor nations has been widened. I got these statistics from United Nations booklets as well as from internet. In 1970, the ratio was 30:1. But after 30 years, it was more than 61:1. In relation to per capita consumption of electricity, some rich nations consume 100 times more than some poor or developing nations. Electricity consumption, 100 times. Still, 2.6 billion people do not have access to sanitation. More than 1 billion people do not have access to clean water. In the United States, the average water use per person per day is nearly 600 liters, while in countries such as Ethiopia, Uganda, it is less than 20 liters. In some cases, it is 10 liters. So 10 liters to 600. The richest 1%, own 45% of world's wealth. 1.8% own 86% of the global wealth. 10 individuals have as much wealth as many countries. 10 individuals. In 2017, the combined wealth of the richest of the world's richest 42 billionaires equal the wealth of the bottom 50. So what bottom 50 people own is owned by 42 billionaires, 42 individuals. The bottom 50% of the world own less than 1% of the global assets. Over 80% of the world's population lives on less than $10 per day. Over 50% less than $2 a day. Over 20% less than $1.25 a day. And those who are unemployed have nothing. When there is such a wide gap between the developing and the developed nations, between the haves and the have-nots, it is difficult to realize freedom or harmony in the world. I am raising this issue and solving the problem by using Advaita Vedanta, oneness of Swamiji also. So it is very difficult to realize freedom, harmony, individuality, thereby peace and happiness. As you know, one B-2 stealth bomber, which has been used, a weapon for destruction, cost $3 billion, while billions are still without water, without shelter, without sanitation, without access to the benefits of modern technology, modern science benefits. In order to achieve freedom from at global level and to save the world from disaster, I would like to refer to the following message of the Vedic tradition, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is your relation. This concept is not present in any Western culture, in any Western religion, that the entire world is your relation, that the brotherhood is to be practiced with everyone. We have to look after everyone. The oneness of the Advaita Vedanta will solve this problem by applying the oneness of the Advaita Vedanta. The Vedas and the Upanishads have added spiritual dimension to our life for the betterment of the liberation of the entire world. One of the great sayings, as I say, Aham Brahmasmi. Literally it means I am identical with Brahman. There are 4 Mahabhakas, great sayings, Tattamasi also. Now, the question is, what is Brahman? Those who are materialist, those who are Marxist, they will say it has no meaning. As you know, the Viennese Circle, which started in 1930, said that these metaphysical terms, metaphysics, God, talk about God, Brahman, they have no meaning, meaningless talk. It is gibberish talk. Now, I am claiming that what is the meaning of Brahman? It is said in our literature, Khalu idam Brahma, Khalu idam Brahma, meaning everything is Brahman. Hence, I am identical with everything. Now it may be asked, how I can be identical with every Brahman? The followers of the non-dualistic Vedanta. There is a non-dualistic Vedanta also. There are, I think, as many as 6, streams of Vedanta. They are non-dualist, not money, they are opposed to non-dualism. But the supporters of dualistic Vedanta claim that what it means is that I am subservient to or at the service of God or divinity. I am not identical with, but I am subservient. It is to be noted that all these schools of Vedanta or the streams of Hinduism, I should say streams, not sects, because the term sect is derived from Western culture. And we should not use the word sect because it implies some conflict. Rather, streams is a better expression. All these streams of Hinduism emphasize righteous action, dedication, devotion, knowledge in varying degrees and at different levels of realization of divinity in us. So all of them accept this dharmic activities. But the materialist, the Marxist, would contradict this thesis. As I am different from other things, and there is no God or divinity, materialist Marxist will say. Since the Advaita Vedanta accommodates a range of truths without having inconsistency,
Sir, we cannot hear you. Shweta? It's breaking.
Again, it's got disconnected, Shwetaliti.
Again disconnected.
We are not able to hear.
Father, the
What
teacher,
has happened?
the teacher of Shankara, claims.
Not
Kullanidhi,
we are not able to hear.
it's got disconnected again, I think.
Yes.
Can you see him? I cannot see also.
Yes.
Okay.
The sir is not visible.
Then I think it's disconnected totally.
Disconnected, yeah. Problem.
Kullanidhi, what should we do? Kullanidhi.
Kullanidhi, unmute yourself. Kullanidhi, please unmute yourself.
Unmute कर दिया क्या? हाँ, कर दिया unmute.
I did unmute.
We are not able to hear. Something has happened. Again, we shall have to wait.
Dr. Shah is not in the meeting.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We are not able
Dr.
to
Shah
see.
is not in the meeting,
In
Mrs.
the
Pachi.
meeting.
He's totally disconnected.
Okay, I'm calling. Joitali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Joitali?
Please call him. Please call him and find out what is the problem. Yeah.
Joitali, can you call me? Can you hear Joitali?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Will you make a call to Dr.
Oh,
Shah?
so I'm calling sir again.
Yeah.
Just talk to him.
Can you hear me, all of you?
Yeah, you can
All
hear
of you
me.
can hear me?
Yeah, you
Yes,
can.
yes.
But it's very often getting
Yes.
disconnected.
Very often we are getting
Okay.
disconnected.
Sir has come.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
now you can
Has he
hear me?
come?
Yes,
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 good.
yes.
Okay, okay.
Dr. Shah,
So
सुनते पाচ্ছি
now,
আপনাকে.
okay. Now I'm, almost at the end of my talk. The oneness I am claiming, I am interpreting in a different way. I am Brahman, Khalu Idam Brahma, and I am Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi and Khalu Idam Brahma, I am interpreting following the Advaita Vedanta to reconcile the conflict between the materialist, Marxist, atheists, and so on. Interpretation is, I am Brahman means I am related to everything. As my welfare, peace, and happiness depends on others, including other beings and nature at large. This is how the holistic outlook and the universal of Dharma may be introduced for the betterment of all. In order to realize the unity with the world or practice universal brotherhood or love, we have to remove our doubts or the preventer cognition. Philosophy aims at removing our doubts that stand on our way. So Indian philosophers by and large have suggested the following three methods: study of scriptures or philosophy. We have to study scriptures or philosophy, including satsang, discourse with or company of good and realized people. Rational justification for the thesis of the scriptures and their utility in our life. Concentration or meditation on the truths of the scriptures. For concentration or realization, we require eightfold yogas known as yama, restriction on certain activities; niyama, cultivation of certain activities like non-violence and so on; asana, discipline of the body; pranayam, regulation of breathing exercises; pratyahara, of the senses by the mind; dharana, focus on truths; dhyana, steadfast concentration on truths; samadhi, absorption of the mind in these truths. The ideal of oneness, I am claiming now, my view, at global level can be realized if the countries are governed by a single world body and global resources such as food, water, and land are shared evenly. So oneness at global level, there is one world. All other nations will be like states. This would remove the root cause of poverty of the teeming billions, the root cause of terrorism, the root cause of conflict or war between nations at global level. It will also resolve some of the problems due to global warming, as there will be common projects or rules for the reduction of carbon dioxide emission. I got statistics due to time constraint. China and US alone responsible for 40% of the carbon dioxide emission. Only two countries, 40%. So it will reduce warming, as there will be common projects for rules for the reduction of carbon dioxide emission. Similarly, it will restrict the spread of COVID-19. COVID-19 also can be restricted, as there will be methods for the enforcement of the rules for eradication of the disease. There will be enforcement rules. In some countries, there is no enforcement rule because of poverty. It is due to the negligence of the WHO that COVID-19 has spread so rapidly. Border restrictions and mass masking should have been introduced from the beginning of the pandemic or at its early stage along with the rules for enforcement. This oneness would promote some basic and core values such as nonviolence and love, teach how to realize them in this life here and now. If several nations such as Germany and France can form a union having a single currency and common passports, then all the nations in the world can also form a single government. Similarly, if 50 states in the US can form a single government, then all the states in the world also can form a single government for the betterment of all. This will make the world nuclear free, armament free, war free, and warming free. This would thus I would it and harmony. Hence, it is our duty. What is our duty? To make the rich nations feel for the developing nations, to make the rich nations realize that their occupation of disproportionately large areas of land or resources is unfair, unjust, unreasonable. This can be achieved by changing people's hearts and by carrying the message of oneness and universal brotherhood to every individual, to every city, to every community, and to every nation. Hence, the message of Vedanta is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the message of oneness. It is a message of freedom from suffering, peace, bliss, and global harmony. It is betterment for all living beings. It will reduce our suffering and pave the way for the realization of freedom from bondage. So, the view of the Advaita Vedantins, as interpreted by Swami Vivekananda, as I have interpreted at global level, would solve some of the global problems, as it will promote fellow feeling and love for all. Hence, it will make the world war-free, strife-free, terrorism-free, COVID-19-free, and nuclear-free. Thereby, it will pave the way for peace, harmony, and happiness for all, including human beings as well as sentient beings. This is how I try to suggest solutions to some global problems from Indian philosophical perspectives. Now, I'd like to finish with my prayer and pranam to you all. You are all living gods and goddesses in this temple. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Shaw. Thank you, sir, for an enlightening lecture. I have one announcement to make. There is a link given in the chat box. I request for the participants to fill up the link, to fill up the form. Those who will fill up the form will be awarded the e-certificate. The link will remain active. The link will remain active for 30 minutes. We go to the question, sir, now from Umesh Prasad Singh. I need clarification on practical Vedanta on humanism as expostulated by Swamiji. My name is Umesh Prasad Singh.
Now, great. Umesh, I have known him for over 30 years now. He is dedicated soul. He has written some articles on Swamiji also in the newspapers and other places. Now, the practical Vedanta of Swamiji, 4 lectures, published in the 2nd volume of his collected writings. They are very, very illuminating. His aim is how to realize the aim of Vedanta in this life, in this world, without postulating afterlife or previous life. Now, every individual in our culture has got freedom. Freedom has been postulated by all the systems of Indian philosophy, almost all. It may vary what type of freedom it is, but mostly it is compatibilistic type of freedom. Only a few have accepted libertarian type of freedom. That means through freedom you can achieve, through your power, through your freedom, you can achieve a lot of things. Now, Swami Vivekananda has addressed how to resolve some of the conflicts by postulating oneness. Wherever there is conflict, you postulate oneness. And he has interpreted our religion, Hinduism, in a very nice way, as well as Advaita Vedanta and emphasized education, love, and how to remove our superstition. So you require proper education, not education simply science. I got another short paper on Swami Vivekananda's conception of education, that it will remove your superstition and it will promote also love in you, and it will lead to spiritualism. So education will not only give you some data about the world, about the globe, about the universe, about science and technology, but also enlighten your life. It will teach you how to realize in life in this world, and how it will lead you to spirituality, which is freedom from all defilements. As I mentioned, what is spiritual? So, since there are many questions, I understand. So this is how I would like to emphasize the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda's practical Vedanta.
Thank
That
you, sir.
how to materialize in this life. Okay, another question, Chaitali?
Sir, there is one more question from Arun
Okay.
Bhamra. How do you reconcile actions of Lord Krishna when the Lord violated or encouraged rules of war to kill Dronacharya, Karna, and others? Do such ends
Okay.
justify means?
Okay, this is very good question indeed. I thought of mentioning it, but I could not. There is a saying, when there is a conflict between the rules, because saying the truth, if saying the truth, utterance of the truth leads to violence, then you restrict not to use, restrict your truth. Ahimsa paramo dharma in that context. Because if I tell the truth, let us say my mother will die, there will be violence. Then I restrict myself from speaking the truth. Satyam bruat, ma bruat satyam apriyam. Apriyam satya means that will lead you to violence. Now the question is, in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavad Gita, where dharma is in danger, entire dharma itself is in danger. Nobody is allowed to promote love. Nobody is allowed to promote non-violence. Riddled with violence, riddled with hatred, in that situation, if necessary, we have in the Mahabharata, if you go back to Mahabharata, all the means have exhausted. There is no other means to reconcile the conflict. To establish the rule of dharma, then there is only one choice. If the choice is that through violent means, if we restore the law of dharma, then and then only violence is allowed. You are not hating the person, you are hating the hatred of the person. You are eliminating the hatred by removing that hatred from that individual, so that the law of dharma prevails. Sometimes if people have asked this type of question, how to remove Hitler through non-violence, my view is that if I have tried All other means you cannot remove, because he is guided by, totally guided by adharma. Then if you want to eliminate him, you are not eliminating individual, you are eliminating the adharma in it. So this is how I would like to answer your question, that what is being eliminated in the Bhagavad Gita at the beginning is, the aim is to eliminate adharma. Thereby the rule of dharma prevails. So you tried all other means, then and then only you resort to violence to eliminate adharma, so that the rule of dharma prevails. That is why the first sloka of the Bhagavad Gita deals with dharma.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we have come to an end. May I introduce to Dr. Jhuma Paul, Sir Jhuma Paul, our head of the department. She will deliver the vote of thanks. She is the youngest and yet matured enough to handle an international webinar like this. She is a co-convener with Dr. Kolani Sarkar. Jhuma Paul.
Thank you, Chaitalidi. Now it is time for Thanksgiving session. So first, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Ruma Bhattacharya, without whose inspiration and active support, this webinar celebrating the World Philosophy Day would not have been possible. Then I convey our sincere thanks to His Excellency Mr. Muktesh K. Pardesi, the High Commissioner of India, for delivering the inaugural address. We are extremely thankful to His Excellency for the World Philosophy Day. Next, I extend our thanks to our eminent speaker, Dr. J.L. Shaw, who has agreed to and has delivered the wonderful lecture. The World Philosophy Day has become a success due to him, so it is very enriched lecture. Thank you, sir. Then I thank our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Shweta Guho, whose all-round support speaks a lot for the success of the webinar. Next, I would like to show our sincere gratitude to Dr. Kolani Sarkar, who co-convener of the conference. It is her untiring efforts to bring together the dignitaries and make the webinar successful should never go unnoticed. Thank you, Kollanidi. Our sincere thanks goes to Dr. Choitali Chaudhuri for such an excellent anchoring. Our sincere thanks goes also to Dr. Bhaskar Chaudhuri from Geography Department for designing the flower of the webinar. I thank Dr. Jitendranath Das from Sanskrit Department for the melodious chanting to mark the inauguration of the World Philosophy Day. Finally, I would like to convey our gratitude to Dr. Shweta Guho from the Philosophy Department and Dr. Amit Mojumdar from the Commerce Department for helping us with the technicalities of the virtual platform. Last but not the least, I convey my heartfelt thanks to all the members of the Department of Philosophy, Dr. Shamoli Banerjee, Orpita Basu, and Mo Bhattacharya, whose combined effort has made this international webinar successful. Thank you so much, everyone. Kolanidhi, over to you.
Thank you, Jhuma. Now we are in the fair end of the webinar. And it was very difficult for us to arrange this webinar within a very short period, because you know that every time we have to maintain the social distances. Still, we more about many people from both India and abroad have attended this seminar, I have seen. And my sincere gratitude and thanks to His Excellency, the High Commissioner of New Zealand. In spite of his hectic schedule, he joined and attended and spent some of his valuable time with us. My special thanks to Dr. J.L. Shaw. He is very familiar to us and visited our college several times. He has a very nice discussion, and in his speech he has discussed many routes and many sites which I sincerely and eagerly listened from the very beginning to end, and I think it is very useful to all of us. Our life situation, it is very, in this pandemic era, it is very, very useful how we realize ourselves and practice in our own life. So thank you everybody, those who have participated. I convey my sincere thanks to all, and here I declare the end of this webinar. Thank you all very much. So thanks.